In this presentation, we'll discuss the different types of connectors in use with fiber optic cabling, beginning with the straight tip or ST connector, which is among the most commonly used type of connector in fiber optics and uses what's known as a bayonet-style plug and socket due to the fact that it is inserted, then twisted to lock it into place. Now, this provides only for unidirectional communication, meaning that for bidirectional communications, 2 cables and 2 connectors on each end are required. Now, that said, in many cases, each unidirectional cable is still enclosed within a single outer casing, so that from our perspective, there is only a single cable, but there would still be 2 connectors at each end. The design of the connector itself is to ensure proper alignment of the wire at its termination points, because of course we're dealing with beams of light with fiber optic transmissions. So in essence, they ensure that the light leaves and enters the communicating devices in a straight line, so to speak, because as the light travels down the cable, it reflects and refracts. So the connector is designed to stop all of that bouncing around, if you will, and to ensure that no light is lost as it passes from the cable to the device. ST connectors are suitable and often used for both single-mode and multi-mode fiber communications. The next type is what's known as the subscriber connector, or SC, and despite the fact that the C stands for connector, it is very likely that you'll hear this referred to as the SC connector. And due to the square shape of the outer shell, it's also commonly referred to as the square connector, but then of course SC still applies. Now it attaches using a simple push-pull motion that snaps in when it latches securely, and it's keyed so that it can't be connected in the wrong orientation. SC connectors and cables also only provide for unidirectional communications over 1 cable. So again, for bidirectional communications, 2 cables and 2 connectors on each end are required. But again, in many cases, the 2 separate cables are bound together into 1 cable with 2 connectors on each end. And I should mention that really this is the case with all fiber optic cabling. When you're sending light down a cable, it is always only ever in one direction. Trying to send light in 2 directions at the same time on the same cable would only result in the light waves interfering with each other, which would render the data unusable. Features of the SC connector include a generally trouble-free implementation in that the connectors tended to be a little more resistant to damage than ST connectors because they actually had a spring-loaded ferrule, which sometimes could fail, and they were a little less expensive than the ST connector while still providing a robust connection and precise alignment, resulting in minimal signal loss, if any. That all said, they are a relative newcomer, at least compared to the ST connector, so it remains likely that you'll still see ST connectors being used, but you might see more SC connectors in newer implementations. Lastly, the lucent connector, or LC, is a significantly smaller connector, only about half of the size of the SC, and it combines the connectors for each unidirectional cable into a single housing. So 2 separate connectors no longer have to be present on each end of the cable. Lucent connectors are becoming very widely used in many implementations, including telecommunications networks, cable television services, fiber to the home, which typically combines internet, TV, and phone, standard local area networks, and large data processing networks. That said, the adoption of the lucent connector has been a little slow in some cases because it's a proprietary connector developed by Lucent Corporation. Therefore, manufacturers have to pay a licensing fee to use it. But in terms of benefits, its smaller size means that more connections can be implemented on any given device, which in turn can translate into cost savings. Perhaps not so much with respect to the connector itself, but for example, a switch that is using the larger SC or ST connectors might only support 24 connections, but with the LC connector on the same size switch, it might support 48 connections, so fewer devices would have to be purchased. Plus, the LC connector also uses the more standard push-to-click latching system, which is now generally regarded as more reliable than the bayonet style of the ST connector, And since both directional cables terminate within the single connector, if the cable had to be moved, only one connector has to be relocated as opposed to two, which can ultimately translate into increased longevity